Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Board Games Unlocked, and Brad and I are doing our top 10 group-dependent games. Now, what does this mean? At least for me, these are games that are only going to be good with the right amount of people. Not the right amount, the right kind of people. I guess right amount could also be taken into consideration.
Yep.
But these are very specific games that you're not going to be pulling out all the time. It's going to be like, okay, these are the friends that I have, or this is the group that I have in my head for this specific game.
Yep.
And another reason why we were doing this one is because a lot of games, especially extremely popular games, kind of fit into a lot of categories that are almost a staple in every top 10. Unless you're doing very specific top 10, like top 10 hand management games, and then you're not putting in like, I don't know, I can't think of a game off the top of my head, but things like that. So
it's interesting. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna quickly say, this is gonna be a lot of fun because the games that I have on this list are, I mean, yeah, some of them have made other lists before, but I'm actually gonna get to talk about other games. So
that's what I was gonna say. Like on this list, a lot of our lists, there are a lot of like new games that jump on there and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was making this list, there wasn't a lot of new games. Actually, I don't even think there was. Like the newest game on my list came out maybe 3, 4, 5 years ago, maybe.
Wow. Okay.
So it's a lot of stuff, because like you said, the new games, they come out with all these different ways to play them now.
Yeah.
It's stuff that these are ones that, just kind of fit that little niche.
Yeah. I have one game that came out last year, but the rest are a few years old. So yeah. All right. Well, I also, how did you rank these? Did you end up ranking these by like how much you like them, or did you rank them? Because I tried to rank them by how group dependent they were.
That's exactly how I did
Okay.
mine. Yep. Because this like there's games that are up on that towards the 1, 2, and 3 that would not be. I like games further down the list than that as far as my favorite stuff, but I went group dependent.
Okay, good deal. All right, well, let's get started with an honorable mention, which is really an honorable mention once again, mainly because, I might have lied. I might have ranked these by how much I like them. Because this one is very group dependent. I think I tried to do both, but I don't know. I don't know what I did, but looking at the list, it feels right. But my honorable mention is a borderline. It's not a party game, but it has the air of like a party game mixed with the seriousness of area control, and that is Shasen. So Shasen it's a political strategy board game, and it's so strange. Like this gets really high marks for me because it has the concept of like a party-esque like conversation game. You pick a deck, and the deck is going to be very controversial or very strong political titles. And they have, and they have sci-fi ones. They have like in the future, they have this, I think the company is Indian, or the designer is Indian. They have like Indian politics, and they have a American politics. And basically these are going to have typically controversial topics, and you have 4 agendas that you can play for. And basically you're given a scenario, and the way you answer the scenario gives you those types of tokens. You can go extremely liberal, you can go extremely conservative, you can go, you can try and be in between. But what you're doing is you're using these tokens to be able to pay for actions that then allow you to take over various areas on the board. And there's different types of board, there's different scenarios you can play. And you're just, the pegs that are in this are the votes. And it's it's so finicky because who you're playing with, these conversations are real, real world conversations that you would have, well, actually, that you wouldn't have with a lot of people if you didn't really align in the same belief system, or you're an adult and you can diverge yourself from a game to reality. But like, for example, one of the questions should be, I think it's like, should teachers be allowed to carry handguns or carry firearms in school? Something that's, I mean, it's constantly talked about. And but the idea is that you're not supposed to answer them based off of what you believe, but what your role playing kind of, it's like, oh, I'm going to be this, extremist Democrat. And that's so, no, absolutely not. All guns should be banned. And that'll give you some tokens. It doesn't really elaborate further than that. All that being said, I can absolutely see people getting extremely pissed off while playing this game. I would never, ever jump into this at like a convention.
Right.
Like, I'd be like, oh man, did you sneak a gun in here? Like, you're like, is there like an officer security that can check you because you're getting really mad? And it works. Like, I think I like these kinds of games where you can hopefully have conversations instead of arguments, all while having a pretty solid area control game. So very finicky, but I like it. So that's my honorable mention, Shasen.
All right. Well, my honorable mention is a game that came out in 2011. So it's an
Okay.
older game.
Seven Wonders.
No.
Like, what?
And this is one of those games that I put on here. It's group dependent because the factions played changes depending on how many people there are. Plus,
Okay.
just general. I've played this game tons of times where I've played with other people and they've got totally butthurt, kind of just left the game mid feel. It's got an IP that I enjoy, and that is Game of Thrones Second Edition.
Okay. Okay.
This one is one that people want to try it because it's Game of Thrones. People like Game of Thrones, at least until the last season. But this is
died like
right.
So hard.
And I love playing this game, but I've played this game maybe I don't know 15 times, let's say, but maybe only 4 to 5 of those times have been where it's just sung. I've played with a group of people I knew it would work with, and it was just awesome. All the other times it's been stuff where, because there's backstabbing and lying and all that stuff in this game, and when that happens, if you play with the wrong people, it just they start to slump back, and then they're just done. They don't care. They're just out to just and it just ruins the whole experience, which will be said about a lot of these games on this list, most likely. If you have a party pooper that gets butt hurt when something happens, then it's kind of ruins the experience. Mechanically, this game's great though. I mean, it's area control. You has the hidden action phase where you're placing tokens out to decide what you're actually going to do, and then they get solved. So you may think you have a plan with the Baratheons, and then they may just decide to fuck you, and and it's just, you just have to play. I mean, it's that kind of game. The theme is that, it's backstabbing theme, and that's the deal. So that's why it's on here. I really like this game. It's just you have to have the right group, or else it's just gonna be a mess.
Yeah, that's a really good point. This game, like, I agree. I think the base game of this is extremely solid. It's long, and it's one of those games where if I want to play for 6 hours, I have other options. And you said 2011.
Yeah.
Well,
that's the second edition.
The second edition.
Yeah.
They released an expansion like 10 years later that I hated. Because it added the Targaryens. It also added the Vale, which I liked. Like, so Peter Baelish and them. I liked them. But the Targaryens, I mean, it was thematic. It was kind of like, hey, if you don't ally with them, then she's just going to get stronger. But then if you do ally with them, that makes you stronger. So why wouldn't you ally with the lady who has, mythical creatures?
Right.
It kind of just derailed the entire espionage of what Game of Thrones was. And I'm just kind of over the theme. Like if Martin's not going to finish his books, it's been over 10 years since the last one came out. I just don't care
Yeah,
anymore.
I'm not feeling the Targaryen thing that's starting in August, but I
Right.
am, just because I'm a glutton for punishment, I am going to watch the Jon Snow sequel series.
Oh my God, are they doing that?
Oh yeah, you didn't hear that? It's been announced.
No.
It's going to continue
Wow.
Jon Snow's story after the events of season 8.
See, the
It's
reason,
going to be the different writers though, so I'm going to give it a shot to see.
yeah, we'll see the problem. I mean, the problem was the writers for the last season, but it's not entirely their fault. They did really good when they had source material to go off of.
Right.
But once they lost it, and so I put a lot of the blame on Martin.
Oh
It's
yeah.
like you gave the people running your show nothing.
Yep.
So
So anyway.
I don't know. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's a good choice.
Yep. All
All
right.
right. My number 10 is the newest game that is on this list, and it is a concept that I backed on Kickstarter that I thought for sure would not work. And at the time, I think I talked about it in the best of 2021. At the time, I'd only played it at 3 people, and then I played it the other day at 2, and it still works extremely well there. So, and that is Mantis Falls. So, a game of trust. This is a hidden trader or hidden role, whatever you want to call it, of for 2 to 3 players. And most of those games, if not all of them, typically require at least 4. So just because you do a lot of stuff that's gonna, hide who the trader is, or there's just a lot more game there. So this is a very succinct game, very simple premise of you being a person who has, seen something that you shouldn't see, and you're trying to escape the city, and you're meeting with someone who also is trying to leave, but you don't know if that person is the person you should trust or not, or if they're already an assassin with the mob. And so you're just going from card to card trying to get out while playing action cards that might help you overcome different events. And so, yeah, so like this one, you start at the diner, and then you just go from, what is it? From evening to night to dark, and you have to make it to the end. And if you are both innocent, you both have to survive. There's event cards that you might take damage, so it's not just purely you versus the other person. But there's a lot of very unique ways of because it's so short or so small, both players or all 3 players have to be really good at hiding their role, because there's not a lot that you can do. Is if you lie immediately, then you're outed. So you have to be, and this is why it's on this list, because like I said, if you're doing Battlestar Galactica or Shadows over Camelot, there's a lot of shit that's happening in the game that hides the traitor. Everyone has to do something bad. There's a extra deck of cards that might make you fail an agenda. So it helps the one person who might be trying to screw over everyone else. This game doesn't really have that. So you have to be extremely smart about how you're hiding if you're the traitor. So I just think that, and this also has a learning curve. There's like very specific cards that are in this deck that are very situational or extremely overpowered, but there's one. And if you've played this game before and other people haven't, to like kind of look for that one card. So this game requires very good deduction, very good, hidden trader experience, and also just extremely smart card play. On top of the fact that it's a hidden trader game for 2 to 3 players that works extremely well. So I'm still blown away. Like I played it at 2, literally maybe like 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I was like, it's so good. Like this game is so good.
Did this one go retail, or was it strictly
I think
thing?
it's on their website. I don't know if it went retail.
Because I'm trying to
Um,
decide if this is something that my wife would like, because she likes the competitive mystery kind of stuff, and
mhm.
it kind of looks like something that might
Yeah,
work.
Barnes and Noble.
Oh, okay.
There you go. If you go on their website, it's $35. Comes with I think it's like the Kickstarter version too. I think wooden player pieces, wooden buttons, one play mat, cloth bags.
Interesting.
It's cute. And
Okay.
this game now makes me sad because I pledged because it was actually relatively cheap. I did one of those pledges that you can actually design a card,
Mhm.
which normally for most games is like $800
Right.
or like $2,000 or whatever. This was only like a couple hundred, and they designed so Zelda's in this game,
Interesting.
so she is immortalized into this game.
That's cool.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I'd say give it a shot. If your wife likes hidden trader games, then this is
She's never
definitely one to
really
pick
tried
up.
Hidden Trader, but with this being a 2-player version,
Hmm.
that's why I'm wanting to try it. See what.
But it could be fully cooperative. You don't know.
Yeah, that's true. Very true. All right. Well, my number 10 is kind of a party type game. Me and the people I've played it with call it like profiling the card game. It's
Okay.
a cool mini or not card game. It was one of the first card games they came out with, and that is Unusual Suspects.
I have not played this.
Yeah, we need to try it sometime just so you can say you tried it, because
Okay.
it plays like it says. It plays up to, it says 16 on the box, but it says 18 on DGG. I don't know, but pretty much what this is that's the art that's on the cards. That you see those pictures, and it's just going to be you're going to lay out a grid of a bunch of I can't remember what the grid is, if it's 12 or 16 people, I can't remember, but you lay out a grid, and one person knows who the guilty party is. They're the witness.
Okay.
So, and nobody else knows, but there's all these weird deals. And then what happens is, going around the table, starting with one of the investigative team, they're going to pull a card and ask a question. So this person likes, I don't know, this person likes to eat watermelon. I get on, he's like, and so they ask that, and then you'd say yes or no, and then the investigative team, all the rest of the people, have to decide how many people they can eliminate out of that grid.
So it's guess who?
More or less, it's a strategic, because the more you get rid of, the more points it's worth that round. If you want to, we quit keeping score because it was just funny, because it gets down to where there's like 4 people, and it's like, well, this person, made, I don't know. Think about some of the worst stereotypes you can do, because that's pretty much what this is you're stereotyping the shit out of these people, and it turns into a very inappropriate stuff, when you start doing stuff. But the reason this is group dependent is just because of that. I mean, there's a lot of, some offense could be taken depending on who you're playing with. Most people I play it with, it's never been an issue that I could see. If you play with some very social justice sensitive SJWs, all that stuff, that is just going to turn into a complete.
Yeah, you can't ask a single question because they'll take offense to.
Right.
It's like, why'd we invite you?
Right, because
are you friends with someone else in the group? No, and then get the fuck out.
Because it's all up to the witness, because the questions are printed, they're on cards.
Oh, okay.
So they ask a question, and then the witness has a card with a yes or a no, and then they place it. They can't say a word the entire round.
I see.
And so it's up to the interpretation from them about whether they think this is true about the guilty party.
I think
And
the
then the
best
other
way to
people have-
play. I was gonna say, I think the best way to play this game would be if you did like subjective questions. Does this person look like they do crystal meth?
well, and does this person would this person take drugs? There's a question like that there and stuff. And I played this with a group of guys. We were just drinking and having fun. It was just a blast. But
Yeah.
I could see this being people could take offense to this. I mean, it's depending on the situation. But
I was looking
guess I
at
didn't
the
do my picture. There's what the picture would look like. So like the yellow deal down here. So like in the first round, if one question's asked if you can eliminate, it's 1 times how many. So the longer you go down, you're going to get more points.
I see.
It's that we don't even really use that a whole lot. It's just pretty much the cards look like this. So they'll ask a question, do they have a record player? And then the person would say, yes or no. And then they have to get rid of stuff. Each round, you have to get rid of at least one. And if you get rid of the witness, then they lose. So it's just kind of how it plays.
God, so it's Paolo Mori. And
yeah, he's done a lot of stuff too.
He's really good. Like he's solid as a designer. I mean, Ethnos, Libertalia, Blitzkrieg.
Like, make a party game. He's like, okay.
He's like, okay, my kids were just playing Guess Who. Fuck, let's just be racist about that.
Well, and this is like an Americanized version of a game. I think it's an Italian game called like Insalido Sospetti. This is like an Americanized version of that game. So I don't know. Anyway, it was just something. It's just one of those games you just have to watch who you play with because it could get inappropriate very quickly.
Okay.
There is blank question cards in there that you could make your own.
You could write in. Okay.
Yeah. So,
this would be one of those that because like party games like that, I do write in stuff like Super Fight or things like. So it's like, okay, that would be fun. Yeah,
this person likes to scissor.
Oh man, none of them got eliminated.
I think it's this one.
This person likes feet. Oh, it's clearly the dude with glasses and the fedora. Link, what are you doing, buddy? There we go. All right. My number 9 is it's in the same realm as my number 10. Kind of in the same genre. But this one is one I've had for quite some time. I think I had 3rd. Yeah, I had 3rd and 4th edition, I guess. But this one is mainly because you're gonna want people who are okay with a long game and that doesn't get disheartened if they're not immediately able to find the trail. And so my number 9 is Fury of Dracula.
Yep.
So this one is a 1 versus many game, hidden movement. That's why I said it was kind of in the same realm as Mantis Falls, where one person plays Dracula and the other people play as the 4 characters in the Dracula novel. So you have Mina, Van Helsing, and then the 2 others that no one cares about. But the point of the game is for the investigators to track down, hunt, and kill Dracula. And the point of Dracula is for him to get 13 influence on throughout Europe. And because of that, those are the only ways to win. There's no abstract timer or anything. The timer for the investigators is that 13 influence. That's really it. And the only way that I can remember that Dracula gets influence is if he can pop off. I think he gets influence if I guess there is like a night and day timer. If it goes a full week, he gets like 1 influence or something. But he can speed that up if he gets vampires. He has like a river of cards that like event cards that he can play face down in various locations. So he can go make a vampire in Munich And if no one goes to Munich to investigate that area and find the vampire and kill it, then if it comes off, then it's matured and he gets a certain amount of points for that. Like he can do young vampire. It's like young, middle-aged and old vampires, and that increases the amount of influence. All the while he's moving, placing cards, they're hunting, getting information, getting items that help them hunt him down. This one relatively plays well with a lot of people. However, I know a lot of people don't want to try it or didn't like it because it is long, and they can get disheartened if they're not able to figure out Dracula's trail, or if they do find it, but it's 5 cards down. So they're like, oh, all right, where could he have gone in 5, in 5 turns? However, if you do play with the right group, if you get into the theme, if everyone's, maybe even read the book or at least seen the Bram Stoker's Dracula with Gary Oldman, and we ignore Keanu Reeves trying to do an English accent because he's so bad. He's so bad in that movie. That movie's great though. If you can get into that, and you can have people who are on the trail of Dracula, or they're able to fight him, and then you're able to fight back as Dracula, and you can escape, and then they lose you for a while, but then they catch you, and you have this cat and mouse experience. This is probably my favorite hidden movement game. It's not one I always want to play because it's at least 3 hours, unless you as Dracula just get your ass beat. Like they just immediately find you and then just like stab you to death. Because it's not like, Dracula can heal. So if he's able to escape and make it back home, then he can heal. It's so there's a lot going on in this one, but it's probably my favorite. It's further back on the list because I can get more people to play this than not, but overall I'm almost always Dracula. I think I've played the Investigators like once, and then but it's just easier for me to be like, okay, well, I'm Dracula, you can be Mina, and go from there. So I highly recommend this one. It's easily one of the best. I feel like it's balanced very much on both sides. These kinds of games I feel are actually relatively hard to get right, because it's like either one side's too, the person hiding is too much power, or the person hunting is too much power, and then they try to weirdly add in modules to try and balance it out, and it's just like, okay, well, now you're too strong. It's like, just play test the game more. So this one's solid. I really like it. So that's my number 9.
I played it one time and enjoyed it. It wasn't bad.
Yeah.
But you had the pussy version too of Dracula. So
yeah, I think we played it where Dracula doesn't have like his powers.
Yeah.
Which is quite hindering on Dracula's part, because he has some that are like, he can turn into a wolf and move twice. He has one where I think he can auto escape, or no, because he always has to move, but I think one of the powers is like a fake move card. But it's easier to just play without those if people haven't played before, because then you can be like, oh, now here are the abilities, and you understand how the game works, so I could potentially move or not.
Right.
So it's good. I really like it.
All right. Now, my number 9 is another party game on this list because of the butt hurt that it causes. And it has nice little foam components that you get to use. And that is...
Oh, yeah, I know exactly why this is on this list.
I have played this a few times, and there's always somebody that gets their, pissed off on it. But pretty much on this game, there's going to be jewels, paintings, money, crap laid out in the middle of the table. One person's going to be the boss. It's kind of like a mobster theme. So then the boss is going to, you're going to pick a card. I think it's a bang or a click card. And I think you place it face down. And then the boss is going to count to 3. Everybody points their guns at somebody. And then you're kind of,
Don't point that gun at me, Brad.
yeah, a nice foam gun.
Yeah.
They used to not have, the first
Did
edition
you
didn't
check
have
the
that little,
chamber?
well, the first edition didn't have the orange tip. So I think they had to add the orange tip on the second edition. So, but anyway, so there's money and all that stuff in the middle of the table. The boss initially will count 1, 2, 3, everybody points their gun. Then after a little bit of time passes, because everybody's kind of staring each other down, then the boss, he'll there at some point, yeah, that's right. So at some point, this is when, like, when he does the 1, 2, 3 again, you can either bow out, if you don't want to. If you chicken out, you can just put your gun down and be out of that round. If you keep your gun up, if it's pointing to the boss has special status, so he can force you to point to somebody else that round. And then everybody that has their gun up on that second count to 3 reveals their card. If it had a bang card, the person he was aiming at takes the damage and doesn't get to select a monetary thing. And everybody else that didn't get shot gets to, starting with the boss, gets first choice on the treasures. And treasures do different things. So it's like whoever has the most diamonds, that's a big bonus. Paintings, most paintings get you stuff. And then at the end of 8 rounds of this, whoever has the most money wins. That's kind of how you, or if you haven't been eliminated, because you have hit points as well. So, and there's healing that you can pick up in that spot and stuff too. But it's on this list just mainly because, I mean, you got to just play with people that are going to be going to it really lighthearted, or else people are going to think they're getting picked on constantly. And
yeah, sure.
And that's happened in every game I've played of this. There's been one person that has been just pissed off the entire time because they think you're picking on them.
Right.
But it's not a bad one. I mean, it's a nice one to have in the collection just for a nice little fun exercise because of stuff. But
hell, I say go hard, just pull out real guns.
Russian roulette, spin the chamber.
All right, if we're playing Russian roulette, pulls out the Glock. All
Yeah.
right, you go first. I don't wanna.
So anyway, that's why it's on this list. It's just it's another one of those that the butt hurt factor. I don't have a ton more. There might be one more on this list, the butt factor thing. Well, no, maybe 2. but most of my party game kind of things are out of the way now, so it'll be more other stuff.
Yeah. I weirdly enough didn't go the party game route. I have one party game on my list.
It's probably one of the same ones.
Maybe 2. My number 8 I wouldn't consider it a party game, but it's borderline. Yeah, I've actually never played this game. It's just never been brought up. I was in the hobby when this was being talked about quite a bit. I think the second edition came out in 2014.
Yeah, 15, I think 14, something like that.
2014, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was in the hobby when this second edition came out, but I remember a lot of people getting upset about just the idea of pointing a gun at someone. It's like, look, what?
Yeah.
All right. I guess there's some unresolved PTSD there, so we'll just not play it.
Don't point the black foam orange tipped thing at me.
Yeah, just yeah. My family died to an airsoft gun, Brad. It's not funny. All right, my number 8. This is one I kind of said it's not party, but it's definitely beer and pretzels, just because it's 100% chaos. This is one of those, most people don't like it, but the ones that I've played with that do like it really like it, and it goes over well whenever you find that right group. They just announced a campaign expansion for it, which blew my mind because I did not expect any more, content for this game, considering how old it is and how much shit is in it. And it is Cosmic Encounter, which funny enough, I actually have all the alien races right here because I will be doing a ranking list for all of these, and there is 195 alien races.
You've played them all?
No, 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 God, no. The ranking
Okay.
is going to be. Sorry, I'm doing a tier list. So because I've played enough of Cosmic Encounter, I'm going to be able to kind of like read the ability and kind of
Gotcha.
pull them. No, God, no, I've not played
I
them
was gonna
all.
be like, Jesus Christ.
No. Funny enough, though, I've been just randomly like reaching into like this and pulling them out, and I was like, oh, I've seen that one, or I've played that. I played that one. So I've probably played quite a few, not 195. Anyway, if you're not familiar with Cosmic Encounter, it is an old game that has the premise that no game will ever be the same, which is so far true. Like I said, there's 195 races. I think the expansion is bringing in 30 new races. And the point, it's a negotiation game. You have 5 alien planets in front of you. You have your own color, and you have a deck that on your turn you draw from, and it tells you who you're going to attack. And you can supply up to 4 of your own ships to the attack. And anyone can defend, can ally with you as the offense or ally with the defense and gain benefits if, either whichever side wins. You have a hand of cards that are, variable event cards, as well as attack and negotiate cards. And that's really the game. The crux of it is that every single alien power is completely different. And they range in 3 different tiers, green, yellow, and red. Mainly just to be based off difficulty. Like green it's not that like red's the better one, but it's like green is the easier one to play, yellow is intermediate, and then red is some kind of rule change. Like I know there's a red alien that he gives people different victory conditions instead of the normal one of get to 5 other planets. It's you now have to do this. And there's ways to remove, player powers. And if you have a really good one, you're most likely being teamed up against. So just the sheer chaos of everyone's powers being radically different from one another, the constant back and forth of like, okay, I'm going to attack you. And everyone allies with the defense, and then you play a card that forces no allies. So it's like, haha, like there's not really a lot going on, but it's just very fast paced and just chaotic. So if you're not one of those people that likes chaos, stay as far away as you can from this game. And like they're well aware that the alien powers are not balanced. But surprisingly enough, I think that's what makes it balanced. Like there are very clear powers in here that are super, super good. But just the sheer nature of the way you can ally and the way you can remove the alien powers, it always kind of works out. Like I played this on my bachelor party, and the person who had the most OP power didn't win. So, but it was just, I think everyone else won because you can share victories in this. I love it. I love it. I'm super excited for the campaign expansion. It's probably going to be bad, but that's more alien races, just to add to the sheer whatever this game is. So that's my number 8, Cosmic Encounter.
Not bad. I still haven't played it. Don't know if I will.
Yeah, because I don't like this at 3. Because it's like 4 is good, but you kind of want to play with 4, 5, or 6, because even though you don't have control over who you attack, which is one of my favorite aspects of this game, just if it's a 3-player game and it's me, you, and someone else, and then I have to attack you, well, it's me versus you, and that there's only one other person who now has to choose who he wants to ally with, and so it's just not fair. At least if there's 2 other people, then it could be a little bit more. There's just more going on. The more alien powers, the better in this game.
Right. All right. Well, going from your crazy random game
Yeah, pretty
to,
much.
to my crazy random game. This one is, it's one's on this list mainly because um, it's not a serious game. If you go into it trying to play it serious, like I've had some people do, then it kind of ruins the experience. This is one of those games that you just have to go in just to have fun. The art is wild, the card play is wild, the dice rolling is wild. What's
I was
that?
able to the alien in the bottom right corner of the
Oh, there you go.
picture. I
Yeah.
was able to find.
Oh, okay.
I was just like, hey, I know what the name of that one is.
But and it's even funner when you start having people really kind of role play their character out even a little bit. That
Mhm.
is the Epic Spell
Oh.
Wars.
Yeah, nice.
This is not a serious. You cannot play this game seriously like some people I've played with have.
Oh God.
Got to
And
just
they're
go
just
into
they're
it.
just upset the whole
Yeah,
time.
yeah. It's like, okay, it's totally random who this attack's gonna go off with. It's like,
Mhm.
and or whoever has the lowest takes 3 damage. Whoever has the highest takes 3 damage. Well, that could
Yeah.
change before your spell goes off. So
That's
you really,
true.
you really can't plan. And it's just a fun experience, and to see what kind of crazy spells you can put together, and the art is grossly great.
Yeah, this was like Rick and Morty before Rick and Morty.
Right. And so yeah, it's just a simple card play game where you take the role of a wizard. You're gonna throw down anywhere from 1 to 3 cards to create a spell, and then they're gonna fire off in initiative order depending on how many cards you put down, or what the initiative number, the fire off number, whatever that's called. And you're just trying to get, I think, 3 tokens, two or 3
Two,
wins.
I think.
Okay.
Yeah. God, if it's 3, yeah, that would take
Oh, I
forever.
know. Yeah. So, but I like that, it has the catch up mechanic. So if you do die, then you get to draw a card that'll give you a bonus to start off the next round and stuff. It's just one of those games. It's just, they've put out what, 4 or 5 versions of this game. I know they have the deck builder, but
Yeah, not counting the deck builder,
I think
I
it's like
want to
4 or
say
5.
5. So let me see if I can expansions. Okay. God damn it, no, because they're all standalone. Okay, so they have the duel at Mount Skull's Fire. That was the first one. Then they had Rumble at Castle Tenakill. Then the Melee at Murder Shroom Marsh. Then the Panic at the Pleasure Palace.
Yes.
And then the Hijinks at Hell High.
Okay, so 5. Okay. So
5
yeah,
expansions, yeah.
you can throw them all together if you want. You can keep them separate however you want. It's just nuts. It's just a fun time. So you just have to make sure the group you play this with is not going to take it too seriously.
Yeah, and make sure you get the promo card, Hagatha the Heifers, Crush Azorian Godstorm.
Well, I like
She's
the
so
one with
hot.
I like the one with Trump.
Oh my God. I know that was, I don't even remember what set that was, but isn't his like entire face just an asshole?
Yeah, and then like all this diarrhea is flying out of it.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah,
So
so anyway, Epic Spell Wars, any version, just make sure you're playing with people that are gonna play it lightheartedly.
Yeah, 100%. This was on my short list. It's not actually on my list. But yeah, I mean, this would be in the same kind of vein as Wiz War as well, of just the more even number you play with, the better it would be. Once again, this is one I would probably minimum 4.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, you're right. Like you could run off a spell where it's just like, okay, the person with the highest health now takes, damage, and then in because of that, now they have the lowest health, and so they get hit by the other card, and they can be like, "What the hell? You're just ganging up on me." Like, okay, I can see how this night's gonna go. Get out of my house.
Yep.
All right, good deal. Okay, my number 7 is my party game, and Yeah, definitely not counting Cosmic Encounter. I mean, I wouldn't consider that a party game, would
No,
you?
no,
Yeah, I
no.
didn't think so. All right, so this is one that I haven't played in quite some time because I'm also not really one of the I'm one of the people that's group dependent. Like I just have to be in this very specific mood to want to do this. And if I'm in that mood, now I need to go find people who are also in this mood. And it's usually better if you're drunk, or if it's definitely better if you are playing with people who are off the cusp, witty or quick-witted. If you have friends who are huge fans of Whose Line Is It Anyway, and that's their life, this is definitely the game for you. And that is News at 11. So this is a game by Floodgate Games that I played when it came out. I was actually given a prototype copy to do on the channel. This is one where you actually, as players, most of the cards are blank. And it's Mad Libs. Like really, it's an improvisational newscasting Mad Lib kind of game. So everyone's given these blank cards, and you I mean, as a Sharpie, or if you didn't want to actually write on the card, you can get like those blank sticky, yeah, like what that person's doing, and making it a dumbass game. Carrot. So I'm original. Oh, wait, it's vegetable. Come on. There's way better there's way better options to put there. But that's another reason why this is group dependent, because my mind immediately went not carrot.
Right.
So so this is once again, yeah, so you could what if you want to preserve it, you could very easily get like those blank not name tag, but like those labels, and just put those on it, and then write on those labels if you want to preserve the card. But basically, what you do is you're given a role that is at a newscast, producer, weatherman, whatever, and you're meant to improv. You're supposed to be the lead anchor, then the co-anchor, and you're supposed to kind of like, all right, and now on to my weather person. And then they have these cards that they're given that they're supposed to kind of play to talk about the weather. I don't think there's actually a point. There's not like a winner or loser or points or anything to it. I think you're just everyone's supposed to play their cards. And every time I have played this game, it is hilarious. But once again, this isn't when you're in that wacky, those silly, goofy moods that not a lot of people are in. So this is definitely party-esque, where you're just only, because if you're playing this, you're playing other games like it, because you'd have to make a really hard shift in mentality to be like, let's play this, and then let's go play whatever viticulture or something, actually strategic game. But yeah, I do think this is incredibly unique. It does remind me of like the improv skit that they would do in Whose Line Is It Anyway, where they had to be news anchors. But those guys are always way funnier than I will ever be. So yeah, if you're just up for improv, or you have those kinds of storytelling games, this is definitely one to pick up, because it's a different theme that I've never seen anywhere else. But yeah, you have to have that kind of group. This one's up there.
Yeah, sounds interesting.
Yeah.
All right. So my number 7 is a game in a category of games. And this is going to be the placeholder for it, because I haven't played a lot of the other games in this genre. But I could see where they would fall in this. So I don't know if they'll fall on your list or not. But and I'm talking about solving crimes and mysteries, like,
oh, okay.
So I chose Chronicles of Crime because that's the one I've played.
Okay.
I'm sure Detective and the Sherlock Holmes game, any of those crime solving games could easily be here, because you need to be playing people that are involved, in this, this one, you're using your device or whatever, and you're checking the crime scenes, and you're giving information, and then finding the cards, and you're talking to people by scanning QR codes and doing all this and that. And if you don't have a group that is involved, then they just kind of sit there and feel left out, and then or you don't do as well, because the whole point of this, you're trying to figure out or solve the case as quick as possible. And it's just one of those games. This is it needs to be an active group. Like, everybody needs to take part in this. I primarily play this one solo, so
Yeah.
we all take part, obviously. But the times I have played it multiplayer, you want to try to make sure everybody's has a job, has something that they're in charge of, so that kind of keeps everybody going. And it just kind of makes it a fun experience when everybody's like, hey, I got this, or all this different odds and ends. It's and like I said, I'm sure it's kind of the similar with detective and a lot of those, where you get information and stuff.
Yeah, so they all have the general idea where the more people you have, I feel like the less fun it is, because there's not enough to look at for everyone to be a part of it. I have pretty much like definitively capped this at 3 players, because it's a sweet spot. I prefer 2, but you could play these at 3 and everyone's still doing something. If you want, I'm gonna kind of go off on a little tangent. If you have more people that want to play and you have the money, I would recommend Hunt a Killer. It's actually a service you can pay for, but it's fucking pricey. It's about $200 for 6 months. They send you a box a month, and it's like I want to say around 200, and you get like a case. So you solve one major question, but you're given a bunch of stuff. Like, we did it with 3, and even 3 was overwhelming with how much we had, and it was extremely deep. And so none of these games, Chronicles, Detective, Sherlock, none of these games have even come close to being as in depth as that is. So that's the alternative if you have a lot of people, and also the money. So my experience with these, I completely agree. Like, if you have someone who just wants to quickly try and gun ho the answer, and they're like, oh, it's obviously this person, it's like, okay, well, we haven't looked at anything, or like chances are like it's not that obvious person, like that's just piss poor writing. So yeah, I agree. I think I didn't even think of these actually for my list.
Yeah, it was just something I was trying to think, and I was like, yeah, you need to have a good group to be successful. I mean, you could play this game and whittle through it, and if people are bored, but if you're wanting to do good at a game like this, having the everybody involved, it just makes it so much more enjoyable.
Because it does feel good, like whenever you're playing with people and they do you guys all figure it out, or everyone has their moment to shine, where they throw in an idea and they're like, well, this person said this, and that doesn't line up with what the other person said. So can we go back and talk to, this guy at Scotland Yard and ask him about the computer or whatever? And you go back, and then it just blows the case wide open, and you're like, oh my God, that's brilliant. But yeah, you kind of have to have people who can get engrossed in the whodunit, mystery, thriller kind of stuff.
But anyway, that's my number 7.
Good deal. All right. My number 6, man, I just realized I have a lot of like hidden trader games on here. So my number 6, actually this one did come out last year, as well as Mantis Falls. So this one is another hidden trader game. This one I feel like is actually, this one's way more involved than Mantis Falls is. So it is, there we go, Unfathomable. This has, for me, completely replaced Battlestar Galactica. Not that I think you need to go out and get this instead of Battlestar, but obviously if you're deciding on which one you should get and you have neither, I would suggest this because it's newer and it's hopefully going to be supported because it plays relatively the same.
Cheaper too.
And it would be cheaper, yeah. I mean, it's still not, I think it's like 70 for the base game box, so not much cheaper if you can find someone willing to just get rid of, BSG. But yeah, so this one is what makes this one higher up than say Mantis Falls is because of the fact that there is you have to there's that that middle point, that middle ground of like everyone's given a role card, either you're a trader or not, and I think it's passenger is what they call it, and you there's a chance that at the very beginning of the game everyone's on the same side, everyone's fully cooperative, everyone's a passenger, but you're slowly making your progress towards Boston. There's a track up at the yellow boat marker that is basically your progress towards your next destination, and then whoever has a certain role gets to look at the next two cards and choose how fast they want to go. But typically the faster you go, because you have to get a total amount of 8 points to get to Boston, the more resources that you're going to burn. So if you do that, then once you hit 4 or higher, then you shuffle out the rest of the roll cards. And at that point, for a fact that there is a trader among, everyone. Like there could have been one the entire time, but you never know at that point. But once the destination is 4 or higher, then for sure someone has the trader card. So that forces that person to now be like, if there was no trader and whoever gets dealt that card now has to turn everything around and be like, oh, we're already halfway there. Do I keep showing my hand? But if I show my hand too early, then everyone's just going to throw me in the brig, because you can absolutely do that. I've thrown people in the brig that were just doing shady shit. I've thrown someone in the brig for only going one point at a time instead of like, and it's like, chances are you didn't always get a 1. Like,
Right.
So there's just tons of accusations going on. You have so much more to deal with in this one, just by the sheer amount of every location has a special ability. There's the deep ones that are climbing on board, getting ready to attack you. You have the 4 resources to manage. If any one of them hits 0, you lose, except the trader wins. So you have a special ability as a character. So there's quite a lot going on. And it's not a short game either. I think it's probably at least 2 hours. So that could be 2 hours of just pure stress if you're not into these kinds of games. And I've also found with it, this is very rough for new people. Not like new gamers, but new people to this genre, because they don't know the nuances of like, trying to like blame people or hide if they're a trader. So they're almost always the first accused, because they're just either extremely quiet or they don't really know. Maybe they don't know everyone at the table. And I played, it wasn't this game, but I played, I think it was called Outpost or something. It was about the Thing, and it had a hidden role. And one of the new players who also didn't know any of us happened to get the trader card, and she was just accused and like exiled the entire time. And I felt bad, because it's like, well, we technically don't know that you're the trader, but you're acting really shady. And she could have just been super antisocial. I mean, she did end up being the trader card, but yeah. So this one, I absolutely love it. I think you can really get into the theme if everyone is just, blame deflecting and everyone is just getting into the social aspect of this. It works out extremely well. Like, you have a trader ability that you can do if you reveal yourself. That's really good. And if you wait till the opportune time to do it, then it can be extremely detrimental and might cause you to win the game. But if people can rally from that, then you're like, oh no, I fucked myself. But I mean, I've lost this game. I thought I had it in the bag as a trader, and I just miscalculated how far they were to Boston. I was like, I think I can do this. And then, so I let Kat pick like the next destination card, and then she had an ability to ramp up the ship track faster. And I was like, I thought you were gonna be one short, and nope, they made it. So I ended up losing.
Yeah.
But and the same really goes for Battlestar Galactica as well. Like everything I said about this game applies to that one. I just like Cthulhu more. So
And that's where I prefer Battlestar more.
yeah.
I haven't ever played this one. I'd like to try it just
Mhm.
because I can't find Battlestar anywhere. I want to re-get the Battlestar stuff just to have, but
Yeah.
it's ungodly expensive and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll try this at some point.
Yeah. I think the Battlestar trader theme obviously makes the most sense just because of the Cylons. Like that absolutely fits a game like this. More so than, cultists hiding among passengers, but it also works here too.
Oh yeah. Yep. All right. Well, my number 6 goes kind of along the same theme as this, not theme, but ideas. This game came out in I think 2014. I played the hell out of it for the first couple of years it was out. I haven't played it for the last few years. But it had a unique mechanic called the crossroads mechanic that came into play and made this game really cool, and that is Dead of Winter. This one, like I said, I haven't played it in a long time, but this is kind of fits that whole hidden game because somebody could be a traitor. But everybody also has their own secret objective, because you could have one person win, you could have a bunch of people win, you could have it's just kind of one of those things. So because they threw in each person's specific objective, you need to end the game with 5 food or whatever, hoarding food. So when you're trying to put stuff in to help these things, these I can't even remember what they were called, but there would be these things that pop.
Crisis.
Yeah, I think that crisis cards that you'd have to put stuff out to help get it so it wouldn't pop off and cause your community harm. But you got to keep it for your personal objectives, so it looks like you're hoarding. And then there's all this different stuff. If you don't play with people that understand this, just like what you said with the hidden roll, and this is with a lot of hidden roll games, then it could be ruined. Because if you figure out who if there is a traitor and you figure out who the traitor is, you could just exile them, and it just kind of changes everything.
Then it gets really easy if it's fully cooperative because everyone's willing to help. They're like, yeah, sure, all right. So what do we need? Food? Okay, yeah, here's all the food.
Right. So this kind of goes with a lot of those hidden objective games. The other thing that the reason I put group in this is everybody has to stay engaged because of the crossword cards. Because the crossword cards have things like, if so and so goes to the grocery store, read this.
Yeah.
So it's like you're
if
sitting
someone
here with a
scratches
card
their eye, read this.
Right. So it's like you have a card set down here, and somebody's just sitting here watching the game, and then they decide, hey, I'm gonna pick up. Oh, guys, about, 4 turns ago when you went, so you just have to make sure your people understand the game, understand to stay engaged, and go from there. This one's kind of fallen out of the mainstream. It had its time, and then I think it's just kind of disappeared with all the other new stuff coming out. But
the time I still have a great time every time I play it.
I need to play it again. I still have the stuff. I just don't ever play it.
It's been a couple of years, but
maybe that's one that we need to play sometime, I think.
Yeah. Yep, this is a good one.
Oh, and I guess I was talking too much. But it's a neat game, getting your characters out, having all the standees and stuff. It's a fun one. And I've never really messed with the expansions either. I'm pretty much just base game guy.
They're fun. I've done the one that where you have unique you have unique settlement upgrades.
Right.
And I've also done one with the experimental zombies. They're pretty brutal.
Mhm.
But it's a modular. I mean, if you're gonna pick up Dead of Winter, I would just suggest get the Long Night. Because it's standalone.
Right. Well, and I went through with my dice and I bought like the frosted iced dice, and then I
Yeah, the
sprinkled,
frosted tip.
I sprinkled red paint on them, like
Oh,
so much
nice.
blood splatter all over them too. So
Cool.
it's pretty neat.
Yeah, this is a really good one. Like, I know the Dice Tower kind of harps on it, lately, and it's like I still think it's pretty solid.
Yeah.
Okay, so number 5. This one is on my list because I have personally been in a game that was absolutely miserable. And 2, I have heard many people just did not have a good time with it, but I actually did play this a week ago and had a wonderful time because I actually played it with the correct number of people. So that's kind of one of those criteria where it's like not the less, but there is definitely a sweet spot for the numbers of players you want, and that is Nemesis or Alien, the board game. So this one is kind of also a hidden trader game. It doesn't have to be, but you are members of a members of the ship Nemesis, and you wake up, you're taken out of cryostasis and see a dead person, and you are trying to basically survive long enough and also complete your objective while not being massacred by these intruders or anything like that. The reason why I say there's a certain number of people, because I have played a 6-player game of this, and it was like 6 hours long, and
My
it was
gosh.
boring after about 2. And I think and whenever I played it a week ago, it was I played with 4, and that is just way better because at 4 the ship doesn't get it doesn't get searched immediately, so
Right.
there's still some time of you having to find maybe specific rooms you might need, and there's just not a bunch of aliens that are coming out. I mean, there are still going to be plenty for you to deal with, but it's just not chaotic and stupid like it was with 6 people. And the biggest reason why that this is higher up is because this is relatively complex. There's a lot of minor rules you have to understand. There's a majority of things that you can do on your turn that aren't in other games. Like, you have very specific actions, you have hand management, everything you can do by your character is based off the cards you have. All the while that whenever the first intruder shows up, you have to make a decision on whether or not you want to do one of 2 objectives, and that's what you have to stick with. So, which is something I very much like. I like the fact that you can kind of see how the game's going and make your decision then, and you can kind of prolong how when the intruder shows up just based off how you play. Actually, whenever I was playing this, I needed everyone to die, and the entire time everyone thought I was on their side until 2 people died naturally from just being stuck in rooms with aliens. And actually, one guy died because he was just fucked from the very beginning of the game, and I was like, okay, because I wasn't going to pick that objective, but I was like, well, I mean, he's already gone, right? Like, he doesn't really have a chance, so I'll just pick this one. This is 2 others I have to pick off. But the sweet moment was when the escape pods were open and someone they had started the self-destruct sequence. And so I had it he had 1 turn left to get off, and then I was after him. So I had 1 turn left to survive and get off on the escape pod. And we were both in the same room, and as he was trying to get into the escape pod, I played a card that canceled his action. So I basically grabbed him and pulled him back out. And he's like, "You gotta be kidding me." I'm like, "Oh man, what happened?" And then it came to my turn, and then I ran to the escape pod and was able to get out. So there's just once again those kinds of moments, those nuances you have to understand. And also the reason why it's higher than Unfathomable, but not by much, is just because in my opinion, the more you play this with, the worse it is. Like, it's already a relatively long game. Like, that track at the bottom right of the board is the turn track, and you can't even, because sometimes you want to go into hibernation, and so you can't even do that until that little bead hits number 8. So you have quite a ways. Imagine if it's on 15, you have to get it down to 8, so that's 7 full turns. And if you have 6 players, that's 7 full cycles of 6 people going, and it is just miserable. So, because none of the objectives you have to do are that intricate that warrant the length that a 6-player game was bringing in. So yeah, this one is, I mean, it's fantastic. It has so many expansions now of just various alien races, even campaigns that are in it. It's a good one. It's a good one. The right group, the ones who are okay with potentially backstabbing, the same kind of social deduction of trying to read someone or do weirdly shady shit just because they have something they have to do. There's nothing quite like it whenever you have that right group who can get into it. So I really like this one. This one is definitely, this is my last like my last hidden role kind of game, but weirdly enough had 3 on here: Mantis Falls, Unfathomable, and Nemesis, all for kind of the same reason, but also there was just more and more that each one of those brought. So that's my number 5.
All right. This is one I want to try sometime. I still haven't played it. But I think I'd like it.
Yeah, I haven't tried it at 3, so I actually don't know how that would work out.
Yeah. So anyway, all right. My number 5 hits a lot of my lists. And it's going to make this list because you need to have a group. And I firsthand have had this happen, like, it's a campaign style game. One of my campaigns I had going, the players didn't really get into the role-playing aspect of it. So it just kind of is just kind of there. You're just playing a mediocre mechanics game at that point. But if you can get the group, like my other group is, that really hammers down the role-playing aspect, it just turns into such a blast to play. And that is Shadows of Brimstone.
Okay.
Because ultimately it's a roll and move game, dice resolution attack. I mean, it's not super exciting with that, but it's all the stuff that happens between that and the altering of your character, and you just need to become the characters. You need to have that fun group to make this game great. I played with both the Chads, and we all role play our players, and it's just hilarious and fun. And
yeah,
you just get so much more out of the game at that point. And then the other group I played with some guys over there, it's just like, yeah, I'm just gonna roll these dice, do this, roll these dice, do that. And it's like,
yeah,
it's just not as fun,
I'm gonna attack.
Yeah, and I mean,
All right,
in this,
I do 2 damage.
and this, and this can be said with really any sort of role playing game. I mean, whether it's D&D or any of that stuff. If you have a shitty group that doesn't role play their characters, it's gonna be boring. If you get into it and have that group that really gets into it, then you're gonna have a blast, But this is just one of those games that,
what the fuck is that?
it's called a shitstorm, is what that is. That's a bunch of I can't remember what the hell they're called, tentacles, and then I can't remember those little vampire snake things. I can't
the
remember
blue person.
That must be an ally that somebody's painted weird or something, because I don't have anybody that's blue, and I have everything for the game. So I'm wondering if they have painted up their allies differently or something.
Gotcha.
But this is a lifestyle game. I have everything for it, and it takes up shelves and shelves and shelves and shelves of stuff. And yeah, like I said, this is strictly because of the role playing aspect of it is why it's on this list, because it's just a blast when you get that right group of people that you know telling the funny stories and everything. Like my character in that deal is a Mexican bandito, and his name is Paco El Taco. And
Is that still the same campaign?
yeah, I know it's well, I mean, you can just play it forever. I mean, there's so much content out, and it's
True.
not and it's not a true abridged campaign. It's not like a Gloomhaven type campaign. Like
Gotcha.
there's all these scenarios. You're like, I think I want to do a story, a thing here, and then it alters depending on what your levels are and all that. So you kind of create your own campaign as you go through with your characters and stuff. But yeah, this is it's a blast with the right people for sure.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll never get a chance to play it because you don't want to bring it over.
I'm not gonna. I'd have to have a damn U-Haul truck.
Yeah, well, I mean, rent one. All right, my number 4 is pretty much the only game that is like it on this list. It actually just came out with a new expansion, and that expansion is fantastic. I love it, but this is also just, I mean, the people who this is one of those, the people who love it really love it, and everyone else just hates it. There's like almost no one in that like, yeah, it's all right. It's out of all of these, this is the hardest one to teach. Just because it's competitive and I don't want to help my enemies. No, that's not true. It's just very difficult just because of the sheer nature of the kind of game it is. And that is Root. So Root is definitely one of those where your group is gonna want to you're gonna want to play with war gamers, like people who aren't going to get upset if you constantly attack them. If they're in your way for you to meet an objective, then they need to be okay with that because it's their fault for getting in your way. The other major aspect of this is the fact that it's truly asymmetrical. Every single faction plays completely different from one another. Besides just very general rules of how movement works and kind of how attacking works, even then that drastically changes. It's also difficult depending on who the player is. Like if you're playing with 4 people and you're like, okay, well, this person's not really confrontational. Okay, I can give them this faction, but okay, but then that requires heavy negotiation. So, and that's not to say that there's not a faction for everybody. I think there's tons of different play styles in this. But at the end of the day, it is conflict, and you're gonna want to have to score points in some way. But you're gonna have to be able to play with people who can grasp a faction kind of on their own. Like if you're teaching it, then it's like, I mean, obviously you're going to be like, okay, hey, you're playing as the birds and here's how the birds work. Like basically go from your top to bottom. Here's your bird song. Here's what that means. Here's your evening. Here's your daylight. Here's what that means. Here's your evening. But the harder part is the next level of that, where it's like, that's how your faction works. But here's how it's fucked over by these 3 other factions. How you play a faction is going to be different depending on who's actually in the game and how weird it can get with certain abilities. And it's like, okay, well, the Corvid conspiracy, they have bomb tokens and they can blow up, areas, and that can just remove every piece. And that could, screw over this entire faction's kind of shtick. So you have to learn all that, all the nuances of also negotiating and different ways to score points based off of, quests or items or things like that. So I mean, I absolutely love this game. Like I said, I recently played with their 2 newest factions. And as far as I'm aware, they're not done, and which is good for me because I just would love just constantly more factions. I wouldn't be totally upset if they did like a second printing, but they kind of do that with all their expansions. They have like a 2.8 rulebook or something, so they always are kind of tweaking the game because that has to be hard for them to release factions and try and balance it with the 8 others that they have.
Yeah.
And players are going to figure that out and be like, hey, actually this needs a slight rule tweak, or this faction's maybe a little bit too powerful. They ramp up too quickly, then no one else can catch up, which is what they did. The Woodland Alliance got a new board because they got points quicker than anyone else, realistically could. So, so yeah, I mean, I've had games of this where people were miserable the entire time because first 1 to 30 wins, and if someone's really good at the game and they're really good at a certain faction, you could have 10-15 point spread and be like, anyway, like, I'm gonna win, there's really not anything you guys can do to stop me. So so yeah, and you also, once again, have to be okay with people who are okay with constant fighting. Like I the only time I get butthurt in games is if people meta and they attack me just because I win. Like, it's like, well, you always win, Root, so I'm just gonna always attack you. It's like, okay, or we can just say you fucking did that and I'm not gonna waste my time. Like, that shit's just, that's extremely annoying.
Yeah.
But other than that,
I've played this once or twice, maybe twice.
mm-hmm.
And I need to play it more. I really don't have an opinion on it yet. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not a bad game by any means. I don't hate it. I don't know if I love it yet.
Yeah.
I need to play it more.
Yeah, I typically keep this at, this is not bad at 3. Not really. And they did a really smart thing with how you decide who the factions are, because each faction has like a point system assigned to them, like by how aggressive, maybe not aggressive, but like, I don't know, board presence. I really don't know how they rank it, but like the cats are still the highest just because they start out everywhere, and it gets lower from there. And so depending on the number of players, you have to hit a certain point threshold. So it's like, if you're playing with 3 people and you need to have 15 total points, you can't pick, the Corvid, you can't pick the Vagabond, and you can't pick the, those 3 wouldn't work because you guys would never affect each other. So they did a pretty cool way of making sure that everyone's engaged whenever they're playing, but that does restrict certain factions from, you're almost always going to have the cats if you're playing a, a lower player count game.
Right.
Other than that, like, I know they have Automa like players that they've upgraded, and I guess retweaked. I've heard it's actually pretty good, to where if you have like 3 people and you want a 4th, you can actually throw in an Automa and it does pretty good. But I haven't tried that personally. So yeah. So yeah, that's my number 4, Root.
All right. Well, my number 4 is a game that you have played and don't like.
Okay.
But I have it on this list because when played with the right player count and with the right group of people, this is just one of those crazy ass games that is a blast to play, and that is Spartacus, a game of blood and treachery.
Yeah, I figured this was going to be on your list. I expect it to be higher, actually. Interesting.
No, you'll see.
Okay.
but anyway, this one is one of those games that, like, there's a rule book, and there are rules to this game, but like, you can lie about anything. Like, you can lie, backstab. I mean, there's you can bend it however you want. You can be like, hey, I'll give you 5 coins if you don't play that, or if you decide to play that card on me instead of somebody else. And then when it gets around to that person, they're like, no, I'm just gonna go play it on this other guy anyway. It's like, there's complete lying, there's complete craziness that happens. These games can take a long time depending on, I mean, you can set a long game, medium game, short game, so it just depends on all that. But it's just, you're trying to get a certain number of influence, and when you get to that set of influence and have it at the end of the round, then you win. There's the different phases where you're getting cards. You draw cards that have different events or actions and stuff on it. You have a market phase that you are Even the money is hidden in this. Like when it's all closed bidding, so you close bid for stuff. And then it comes down to a battle at the end, and the deal that there can even be backstabbing in that, because there's cards that deal with the Primus and all that stuff, and you can actually play card last second to switch out a gladiator, or maybe make it a 2 against 1, and stuff like that. It's just like there's a lot of craziness with this game, and this goes into that same realm. It's not the same style of game, but it's the same realm as, like I said, with Epic Spell Wars. You can't go in. This is just kind of one of those games, you're going to get fucked at some point or another. So it's just the experience and having fun with it and stuff. I had a game where I screwed a guy over second round. I hosed a dude. And then because I hosed the dude, everybody else was like, nope, we're not dealing with you the rest of the game. And then I was just hosed the rest of the damn game. So you kind of have to like pick your timing and stuff better. But this will always be one that I'll have. And I do have a couple of groups. This is one of our favorite games to play when we get together, because of just, we know what to expect, and we kind of know each other and how it's going to be played and stuff. So yeah, Spartacus.
That's fair.
And don't play it at 3.
Yeah, for sure.
You need to at least play it with 4. You could go all the way up to 6.
Yep. If you're ever playing this on like a weekend and you're like, hey, I mean, we need there's room for one more. There's gonna be 5 of us. You'll be the 6th or something. It's like, all right, cool. I can jump down and join, because at least that's the case. It's fairly spread and everyone's gonna be conflict heavy. It's not me and you.
Yeah. Yep. So anyway, that's my number 4, Spartacus.
All righty. My number 3 is one that was kind of the inspiration for even making this list, which you would think it'd put at number 1, but there are 2 games that I value, but that I think are a little bit more group dependent. But I kept hearing the Dice Tower make statements on this game that could not be more wrong. So I am here to set the record straight that the group you're playing with makes this game the best of the series. And that is Rising Sun.
I guess I can agree with you because of the negotiations and stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
So they don't say this game's bad or anything. They say that this game, the negotiation is not that big of a deal, and I 100% disagree. Like, negotiation is what makes or breaks this game, and that's why it's on this list, and that's why it's so high on this list. Because there is a specific phase about negotiation. There is a tea ceremony phase where you are trying to ally with someone else to get benefits in the next phase where everyone's doing, choosing actions. And I mean, that in and of itself should be like, hey, obviously negotiation's really big. Because in other games, it's just kind of there. Like, negotiation can be brought in, but it almost never is. Like, I know people who negotiate a lot in Scythe, and they mentioned that Scythe has heavy negotiation, and I've never played it that way. I'm like, no, I mean, yeah, I guess you could. You'd be like, hey, don't attack me over here, but you can't, like, there's no hard and fast rules of what you can trade or if you can give anyone resources or anything. This specifically does have that. And my sheer experience was, the last time I played this was a group of 6. Yeah, there were 6 of us, and 4 of the players were brand new. Like, they had never played this game before. And so it was me and my friend Devin. And I always feel bad because every single time he plays this game, I think he's played like 3 or 4 times, I have just forgot a rule that only ever affects him. And I'm like, I'm so sorry, man. But so I explained to them, how the game works. Here's what you do. Here's what your faction does. And, so on and so forth. Here's how you win. And as soon as the first tea ceremony came in, it was, all hands on deck for negotiation. People were like, hey, come with me. Like, let's just immediately started like walking away, making deals, texting each other, breaking those deals. Like the second phase, a friend of mine, he had a faction and a build that was getting him a shit ton of money. And it was me, the first phase or the first era was me and the first guy I made a deal with were doing really well. And as soon as the second tea ceremony phase came in, the dude with all the money was like, I'll give you 10 gold to break your alliance with him. And I was like, deal. Like, didn't even hesitate, didn't try to negotiate for any more. 10 gold was already a lot. And the guy like was like, oh, okay. And then so he started working with someone else. And I was sitting there like, oh fuck, like what did I do? Like that was pretty, because it was 10 gold. But yeah, so that's I mean, yeah, if you're gonna completely ignore a phase, you're gonna have I wouldn't say you'd have a bad time, but you're missing a key aspect of what makes this game extremely great. And why it's my personal favorite out of the three Eric Lang CMON monsters.
Not Ankh?
No, unfortunately, Ankh is just not a good game. I mean, Eric Lang just kind of, copped out, sold out just for the money. But I mean, can you blame him? CMON makes like millions and millions of dollars on their Kickstarters. He was probably like, okay, I'll make a fucking half-ass Egypt game.
Yep.
But yeah, like, I mean, Blood Rage is extremely solid. It's still, they're both like 10 out of 10 games for me, but that Rising Sun, one, theme, works better for me than Viking, and two, just that when you get that sweet spot of negotiation with players and seeing it come to fruition, or being able to, because there's an action called betrayal, which only hurts the person that you have made an alliance with. So if you're not negotiating, or you're not getting into deals like you would in a war game, you're omitting a phase, and you're also omitting an action that you could pick. So it's like, okay, if no one wants to make deals, or it's just kind of like, oh, I'll stick with this person. It's just so dumb. Like it's extremely frustrating. So it's like, okay, well, don't say it's not a negotiation game when there's a literal phase all about it.
Yeah.
It's so stupid. But yeah, and that's why it's group dependent. Like if you don't have people who want to negotiate or get into it, like that game lasted like 4 or 5 hours, and we were all standing the entire time. Like afterwards we went out, because it was also on my bachelor party. We went out to the fire pit, and we were like, our feet hurt because we were standing on this fucking hard counter the whole time. But yeah, it's amazing. I love this game, and they actually want me to bring it for, like, instead of doing D&D one day, like they're like, hey, you should bring that game. I'm like, I am so down.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my number 3, Rising Sun.
All right. Well, my number 3 was brought up earlier. It's not a crossover, but it was brought up in conversation. It's an older game, out of print, and it's one of my favorite hidden role games, although it's very long, and that is Battlestar Galactica. Yeah, Unfathomable is what you can get right now. And I know it just comes down to themes. I mean, it's because they're more or less the same game. I know there's tweaks and there's stuff that made for Unfathomable that made some things run a little smoother,
it's a little cleaner.
Yeah, but the theme of this so much more does it for me than I mean, because I even watched the original Battlestar, like from way back in the day, and then I love this series. I watched this series multiple times, and it just it's easier for me to get into this one just because I'm gonna go hop in a Viper and go take out some Cylon, or something like that. It's just this is one of those games that using the stock art from the TV series, like when this came out, games with IPs were always shitty. I mean,
Yeah.
this was probably one of the
That's
best.
still kind of the case.
It's getting better,
Yeah.
but I mean, it's definitely still not wonderful. But places are getting better at it. This was one of the first ones. It's like, oh shit, this was like a really good game, and back when this was first coming out, I mean, I used to play this damn thing all the time. I had a group here in town this was like what we played like every week, it seemed like. And and it's just one of those games that the theme sings. If and the reason it's on this list is just like what you said with Unfathomable. I mean, you have to have a group that knows how these games work, because I played where the new person was the Cylon, and they're like, what does this mean? And they like show up.
Yeah.
Damn it.
It's like,
and we have to reshuffle everything.
Or I've had someone, like first 2 turns in reveal themselves as a Cylon. You're like,
Right.
okay, it's all of us against you.
Airlock.
You need the expansion for that.
Yeah. It's so
which
anyway,
is also like another $200.
I know, but that's there's not much more to say about this. We kind of talked about it with Unfathomable in this when we were talking about it. This is kind of the originator of this style of game, I think, and then it's been branched upon and everything. But this one was done very well back when it came out. I don't even know when it came out initially, but it was probably in
This
12.
well, I know the show came out in 2005, I think.
Yeah.
2008.
Okay. So it's been out for quite a while, but man, it was almost kind of ahead of its time back then, really.
Yeah, I mean, just going off of like the market on Board Game Geek, I think the base game is 175 is what people.
I'm hoping one of these days I
With
get
boxware.
Yeah, I get lucky and find deals sometimes. I'm kind of hoping I fall in one here. We'll see.
Yeah. Funny enough, I also played this on my bachelor party because that's back when I still had the game, and I was like, it's so good. And of course, my DM for he was, I think his name's Gail Urso, and you start with 2 roll cards. So it's like, okay, well, chances are you like statistically you need to be a Cylon. And then there was a time where like other people were doing weird shit, and I was like, well, what are the odds that you didn't get one?
Well, and just that mechanic, because I don't remember any games prior to this one, that mechanic where when you're trying to resolve the issue and 2 cards get thrown in off the deck. So you don't, that, when you're trying to resolve an issue, and it's like, so you don't, that just adds to
it's incredible. Yeah.
And then
it works both ways. It could be like, so the Cylon could try to thwart a mission, and the 2 cards could actually help you succeed.
Right.
And then it's like, then it just masks like the Cylon could be like, oh man, yay. Like, oh, that must have came from the deck.
Yeah. Well, and then it's just like other expansions brought in, like the the Cylon sympathizers and all that stuff. It's just a lot of different stuff with it. But yeah, this was one of those games that group helps greatly.
Yep, I agree. All right, my number 2. I believe you have now played this, if I'm not mistaken.
Really?
Huh?
Oh, really?
I think so. I think you finally had a date set aside to actually go out and finally play it. And this was very close to being my number 1. However, my number 1 is just, it had to be. This is in a similar vein to my number 3, Rising Sun, but it is just it's much, much longer. And that is Twilight Imperium.
I still haven't.
You still haven't?
No, it got canceled. Our game day got canceled.
Your group sucks.
That's a dad's kid, I think.
Yeah, so TI is just one, I mean, just the sheer nature of it warrants a very specific group. You have to be with people who are okay with blocking out a day. Like if you're playing with the 6 to 8, I would probably say 6 or 8. 7 would be fine, but I like 6 as a number, 8 if you can get it, just if you want to have a really epic day. But when I play with 6, it does take all day. Not necessarily. It takes, like, we usually would start around like 1 and end around 10. So that's with breaks for dinner and stuff. But that's just what you are planning to do. So if you already have members of a group that don't want to do that, don't even bother playing this. Then, because this game isn't hard to learn, for the stigma that it carries with it, it's really not that difficult. It's just understanding how your alien race works and also how it works against other players. And then, kind of like Rising Sun, how heavy negotiation is. Because at the end of the day, it's not about last man standing or it comes down to victory points. You're playing to 10 points. So understanding how that works and being able to swindle your way into, hey, let me just have that planet. And they're like, well, I want it. It's like, look, it's not really doing anything for you. Like, tell you what, you can take this planet over here. Like, it's going to give you more resources to get more ships, and I just want that one just for the voting. And they're like, all right, fine, you take it, and that scores you 2 points or something. It's just, there's actually specific cards that are like promissory notes you can trade back and forth that give players, something that just to sweeten the deal. There's politics in this game with that register towards votes, and so there's a very specific politics phase that it's like, okay, this says to elect a player, and then everyone's, trying to make themselves the candidate. And it's like, how can I talk someone into agreeing to vote for me? So if you're playing, once again, kind of like with Rising Sun, if you're playing with people who don't want to negotiate, or just they're not social, or they're not conflict heavy, then I would just play something else, because you're probably not going to have as good of a time as you can. This is truly the epic, the 4X king, in my opinion. Like, so many games come out where they're like, oh, it's 4X and in an hour, and it's like, yeah, kind of like, but you're not getting that epicness of what a 4X feels like. The two kings of 4X in terms of gaming would be for board games, it's this, and for video games, it's Civ. Like,
Yeah.
Those, and there's a reason why they're extremely long, because you're rewarded whenever it's all said and done. So I could go more and more into how this game works, but at the end of the day, it does come down to your group has to be okay with being involved in combat, conflict, negotiation for 6+ hours.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my number 2, Twilight Imperium.
We will get it played at some point. All right.
I'll invite you to my next game day.
Yeah.
I'll have to make it up.
All right. My number 2 is one that I thought, from your hints about what you've been saying, I don't think this is on your list, but I thought it would be. This is, I guess it would be, it's kind of a party game, but it's kind of disguised as another type of game. This is actually the first game I ever played with you. At Changing Hands, we had a big group of, we probably had 8 to 10 people playing it.
Oh,
okay. Yeah,
okay.
What it is. That's Deception, Murder in Hong Kong.
Interesting. Okay.
This one is on here because, well, it's, again, you need the right group of stuff, and it helps when you have people that understand the game, because you have all these people and you're going to be handed out, your roles are hidden, obviously, and the person that is the scientist, yeah, I was trying to think, forensics, knows who the killer is, and tries to pick items. They have to pick 2 different items on their little layout of little cards that are on their board, and those are the murder weapons, or where it took place. The murder weapon, I believe, is what it is. And then
I don't know.
Yeah, I think
don't know how they differentiate
and or something. But anyway, those are the murder weapons and stuff like that. So, but that forensic scientist cannot talk at all. They have those little cards like you see on the picture that have the little bullets, and those are where the clues are. So it's, it says victim's occupation on that one, and they're going to, place a bullet down on whatever one of those clues would kind of gear the rest of the people towards where the murder would be. Well, these cards are very vague and very basic, and you can make a guess, but when you make a guess, you get one guess per deal, so you lose your little token. So you can whittle it down that way. I think you only have like 3 rounds. Yeah. And
most of the time people are waiting till the third round.
Right.
I never do.
Right. And so it's just like, it goes along the lines with any of those hidden roll games. You need to have somebody that's not, because if you're the killer, you need to know how to play these games. You need to be able to deflect. You can't be look all like guilty and stuff when people start pointing their finger, because that is a strategy some people do. It's just like, when I've played this game, I'm like, oh, Chad's the killer. I know he's the killer. I can tell right now. I don't know if he's not, but you can kind of do that with people. And some people that aren't good enough at covering that kind of give it away. So in order to make this game a fun experience, you need to make sure that people understand how the game is played and the general aspects and how the theme of the game works and everything. So this was one that's, when we talked about this was one of the first ones I thought of. My number one was my very, very first one I thought of. But and this one, there's expansion out that adds more roles. There's all these different things you can add to it and play with it. And so yeah, I mean, it's just one of those games that I would say you need to at least play with, God, I don't know, 6 would be the minimum. I mean, maybe even 8. Like the more the better.
6 is more is really good. This is one of those few that it's like actually having a lot of people is worth it. 6 is a really good number too.
Yeah. The tricky part though is like, because one of the killers is one of the investigators. So it's like, the tricky part I've always had with this game is the forensic scientist. These cards are small, so depending on what your play area is, like the forensic scientist has to like not make it obvious that they're looking like like making noises and looking to
or when everyone's quiet, and the murderer has to pick 2 cards. If people are just naturally listening, and they'll be like, I feel like I heard
cards over here.
Left. Yeah.
So it's they almost need to do like I don't know how to remedy that. I mean, it's never really been that big of an issue, but it's just it could be an issue depending on who's playing and stuff. So anyway,
good choice. Yeah, this game's great. All right, my number one. Do you have any guess at what my number one would be?
Have I played it?
Yeah, actually. Most people wouldn't consider it a game.
Wouldn't consider it a game?
It's porn. You have to have it's just having sex. You just have to have the right group. It's an orgy.
Word. I don't know.
Okay. We've kind of talked about it in passing. You've mentioned it in one of yours, and then I've kind of also, it's just been slowly hinted about throughout this entire list, but this is 100%. This makes like everything, from 2 to 11, at least on my list, you can get away with kind of not having maybe the right group. Like it's just might not be as good, or the game might not sing. This one, in my opinion, it makes or breaks the game. And that is Dungeons and Dragons.
Yes, that makes sense. When I was talking about Shadows of Brimstone.
Yep. You mentioned role playing, and this one, I mean, everyone's like, this is an activity, and it's like, okay, semantics at this point, just shut the fuck up. You're not interesting. No one wants to talk to you if you're going to be that guy. But no, this is no different than getting into role playing while playing Gloomhaven or Nemesis or Shadows of Brimstone. There's math, there's roles, there's rules. It's a game. But your game is heavily dependent on who your DM is how engrossed he can make it, how much of writing he can make it, even what tools he uses. Like right there, this is already a turnoff for me. I do not like maps. I don't like cards. But I get so many people do. A lot of people, can't visualize, or maybe the DM can't describe it as well. So he needs a little assistance, or players need assistance to see where they're at. Actually, the cards, these are from, I think, 5th edition. The cards themselves are actually really handy if you're a spellcaster, because it could be a lot. Those are very nice. But there's so much. I mean, there's a reason this came out in the 70s, and it's even gaining more popularity. And this isn't just for D&D. This is for Pathfinder, Starfinder, any type of tabletop RPG is kind of what this applies to, but I'm heavily involved in D&D, specifically 3.5, which is way more engrossed than 5th edition is. But if you have a group that role plays their character, but also isn't like a dick to like the rest of the party, where it's like, oh, well, my character would do this. So there's the finickiness of the entire group. Like, so it relies heavily on your DM if they're good or not, if they put in the time. And if the players work well together, if they make characters that are still interesting to themselves, but also work well with the party, then, because it's not just your story, it's everyone's story. So it's just, there's so many things in this game that can just cause this game to just be dog shit. But if you get that group together, you can have those highlight moments of, I mean, I've been in sessions where I've teared up. I've been in sessions where me and other players are in character yelling at each other, arguing with one another as these characters come to life. And after like the yelling or whatever is done, we're like totally fine. But you can have players who can't be like that, where it's like, why are you yelling at me? It's like, I'm not yelling at you. I'm yelling at your character. I'm trying to role play. And some people can like shut down, or they don't want to role play. I've played with people who always talk in the third person, where you have to be comfortable talking as your character instead of being like, so I say this, or I would like to do this. It's like, just say you do it, or just talk to me as your character. One of my other groups, he's socially awkward, I get it. But his brother is the DM. And so whenever I'm trying to talk to him as a character, he just immediately looks to his brother. And like his brother's like, what do you say? What do you do? Like, so there's a lot in D&D that, I mean, I could give example after example after example of why this game is the most group dependent game, in my opinion. But I don't want this to be another hour, so I'm just going to kind of leave it at those kinds of things. But I will also say, if you, out of all the games I've mentioned, there is nothing more rewarding than having a solid tabletop RPG group.
Yep. Yeah, I first played Dungeons and Dragons back in the early 80s. My cousin kind of introduced it to me, and it was just him DMing for me.
Mm-hmm.
And he kind of helped me through it because I was pretty young.
Yeah.
And then I didn't touch it at all until COVID.
Yeah.
And the guys over in Joplin, we did one over Zoom.
Yeah.
And that was my introduction back into it, and had a blast with it. We ran a couple of one-offs, just to kind of get back into it. And
that's kind of other things. Yeah. Cause like for me, I don't like modules. But a lot of people do. Some people, like I can't personally do over the internet, but I have a friend, he DMs, and his entire group is over, I think, Zoom or Teams or whatever it might be. He says it works really well. So there's a lot of avenues to going around, around actually getting a game together. But my main group, we roll dice and do all these checks, but a lot of fighting is narrative. A lot of it is very anime-esque kind of stuff. So it's It's very heavily role played. That's my favorite part. I get extremely bored if it's, oh, here's a combat session. We actually had a recent session. It was 4 or 5 hours of pure combat, and I was like, I drove 2 hours for this.
Mhm. Yeah.
And so but some people combat's their favorite, and
Right.
that's where you can. It's like, all right, the DM has to be like, he can't just give one person everything and the rest of the party nothing. It's like, all right, we're gonna have combat. You're gonna have to learn to find a way to enjoy it. Okay, we're gonna have role playing. You're gonna have to find a way to enjoy it. So
Right.
not easy at all. So that is my number one, Dungeons and Dragons.
All right. My number one was the very, very first thing I thought of as soon as you proposed this list. And I believe, because you, me, and Kat played this at my house, but I think I may have introduced it to you. I think.
Okay.
And this game is one that if you do not have the group that is storytelling driven, this game sucks. You have to be able to tell the story
Oh, okay.
and
I think
and
I know what you're talking
and
about.
compound upon the story for what is happening.
Yep.
That is Gloom.
Yep.
Um,
I was waiting on it. Whenever I was talking about news at 11, I was like, man, I feel like Gloom is going to be mentioned.
Yeah,
at some
this
point.
one, because ultimately this was one of the first games I played that had the plastic translucent cards that stacked and did different stuff. And the theme of this game is you're taking control of a family, and the goal of your game is to, I mean, kill your family off. I mean, that's really
Right.
it. You're trying to kill them off, but you're trying to make them as miserable and as possible, the most dramatically horrible, sad deaths imaginable. And then when they die, there's a certain amount of points on them and then whoever has the family that died with the most is the winner. So as you're playing, you can play on anybody's family members, and when you're covering up cards, you cover up some of the negative values, because negative points are what you're looking for. But you can make them happy. So you have some lady that is a negative 15 because she had a beaver bite her at the pond or something.
Yeah.
And then it's like
Yeah.
you're getting close where they're almost ready to die, and then somebody plays a card. It's like, oh, but she found her long lost love, and it's a plus 30.
Right.
And it's just like,
And
but
he bit her beaver. And
right. But you can't. But that's the thing. I've played this game a bunch over the years, and it's like I've had groups where it's just like, I'm going to play this card, bitten by beaver, for a negative 15. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
It's like, but you got to tell the story. It's like, and then and it keeps you engaged because you're compounding on. You need to know, like, okay, this person, yeah, she was bitten by a beaver, but then she found her first, just like you're compounding on all these stories and everything, and create narrative on everything. And it's just one of those games that I just could not imagine if everybody at the table was just dropping a card on a card. It would just be so damn stupid. There's an app for this.
Oh,
God. I downloaded that because it was free at one point.
Yeah.
And it is so horrible because nobody's talking. It's just like they're just throwing cards out, playing. It's like, okay, this is stupid because it's a story game,
Yeah. Yeah. I completely agree. This is in the same vein as News at 11. Is like, I don't play it a lot because I'm never in that improv-y kind of mood where I want to tell a story. But every time I play it, it's always a blast. There's another game similar to this. I think I got them around the same time. Oh, and for the record, you did introduce this to me.
Okay, I thought so.
Yeah, that was a while ago. That was a long time. I think that might have been the first time I went to your house was we played this.
I think Kat was there and we had played Fire Team, and then this, I think.
Yep. But there's another game, if you don't like the macabre, theme of this, called Once Upon a Time. And it's a very similar storytelling game. You have like an end card of how the story has to end, but you have to you have to get the story to go in a direction to where it makes sense to your end card. But I've played that where someone was just like, oh, okay, so he goes to the lake, and then he finds a horse, and then and they just like are playing the cards. It's like, no, you gotta.
Yeah.
Okay, this game sucks. Never playing with you again.
Yeah, the very first time
once
I played this game was back. God, it probably would have been in the early 2000s is when I played this.
2005 is when it came out.
Yeah, I played it right around then because it was.
They have a bunch of expansions too.
Yeah, this is just a great game if you have that right group. And that's why it's my number one, just because.
Yeah.
This one sings if you have people that are good at telling, good at improving stories and stuff. Hilarious.
Riffing off one another. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. All right. That was our top 10 group dependent games. Let us know what you think of these games in the comments below. And also let us know what games you think are best with the right group. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you.
Hey everyone, thank you for watching, and I really hope that you enjoyed the video. If you would like to see more of my content, go ahead and click that subscribe button and the bell to be notified whenever I upload any new content. If you feel like supporting the channel, you can go ahead and click that Patreon link to be taken to my Patreon, and any help is truly appreciated. Other than that, stick around for any other run-throughs or reviews or cool top 10s or whatever I feel like putting on. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you.